All right, I'd like to call the board's meeting to order Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. First, I'd like to inform everyone that Falmouth Community Television, also known as FCTV, and Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, are making audio and video recordings of today's meeting. If anyone else is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you're recognized, please state your name for the record. Jason.
Good morning, everyone. Jason Grazia Day, Nantucket Current.
Thank you. Unki.
Truly.
Good morning, Unki Sonu, MB Times.
Kai.
Good morning, Kai Quigley, the Inquirer and Mirror.
Thank you. And Louisa.
I'm Louisa Hofstadter with the Vineyard Gazette.
Thank you. Okay. Next, I need to make a statement concerning remote participation. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, Board member James Malkin is participating remotely in today's meeting because his physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. Mr. Malkin is participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of Mr. Malkin's remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. Bear with me as I pull up the next thing I need to look at. All right. Before we move on to the first order of business, which is the minutes of the authority's January 20th, 2026 meeting in public session, I would just like to start our meetings for the remainder of the year, just laying out the mission of the Steamship Authority as put in our strategic plan, just to remind us all kind of where our focus should be. And as stated in the strategic plan, the Steamship Authority is a lifeline for the islands and a valued and respected part of our communities. We are committed to the highest levels of safety and reliability and to the stewardship of the Cape Islands and our waterways. And with that, I would take a motion to approve the minutes of the authority's January 20th, 2026 meeting in public session.
Motion to approve. Second.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right. Roll call vote. All the
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malkin, aye.
Brandy, aye.
All right. Minutes have been approved unanimously. Next item is the Port Council's report.
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Morning, Gordon.
Great. Thank you. Apologies for not being able to join you in person. So yeah, we met on February 3rd, just a few updates. We got the regular updates that you all will for the different projects underway. We asked about the traffic study that is in progress for Woods Hole, which I gather we're going to get an update in March. Other events have intervened, understandably, with the team, so we'll be getting that in March. We did hear about, and perhaps today we'll hear the results of some of the town hall meetings that I believe were held last week on the reservation system. We did recommend, we voted to recommend approval of the film policy that Sean presented to us and will be presenting to you shortly. We had a discussion on the Robert B. Hour license request and the updated information that Terrence provided us there. We didn't take a vote on that for a number of reasons, not least of which is we wanted to get some feedback from the licensee on the proposal, really understand what the operational effects are for the dock at Nantucket. I have some language that we would like to include in the license as far as operations on the New Bedford side should it go forward. So I think more to come on that. I don't know that there's going to be any more discussion this morning on that, but we'll, I'm sure, be taking it up again in March. And then just very briefly, under new business, Nat Lowell raised an issue, which I confess I don't fully understand or grasp, which is true of many of the things that Nat Lowell brings up these days for me, but I'm getting up to speed. It relates to the food trucks, the morning food and produce freight that comes over primarily on the shoulder seasons, and looking at the schedule for that. And so he kind of put that on our list for consideration going forward. There was just one public comment. Amy Cody commented that she urged support approval of the Robert B. Auer OTT license as an effort to diversify the overall freight operations of the Steamship Authority, and also she urged, which I'm presuming happened, a hybrid offering for the town halls that were held last week, just to increase participation. But that is a lightning round summary of the Port Council meeting.
Any questions from the board for Gordon? Thank you, Gordon.
All righty. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Gordon.
All right, moving on next. To continue my experiment with the Treasurer Comptroller's report going next. And my thought on that is just so that the board informs all their decisions as we move forward, first and foremost with the financial health of the organization. So with that, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. So we have the business summary for the year end. We are currently undergoing our annual audit with RSM as we speak. So these numbers aren't finalized, but we're in the process of with the engagement with them. So on the first slide, we had the financial snapshot. So for the month of December, we had revenue of just under $7 million, which was below budget by $900,000. Year to date, our total revenue of $149,000 was below budget by about just over $4 million. Our operating expenses for the month of December were $13.1 million, which were $721,000 below budget. Year to date, operating expenses of $146 million were below budget by $4.6 million. Putting this all together, we had a net operating income of $9,542,000, which was below budget by about $1.1 million, or just under $1.2 million. And I'll go into some of the variances on that in the next couple of slides. So for the operating revenue in the month of this, for the year end, and what we posted in December, we made a adjustment to our passenger revenue. We made adjustment of deferring the passenger revenue, mostly associated with the coupon books, where the new system, when we're migrating the data over, we're going to have to bring that in as a value and post the liability. The systems handle the books a little bit differently. So we made a deferment of about $1.1 million. We've already discussed that with RSM, and it's really just the timing of when that revenue recognition on the coupons, the individual coupons, are being used in the books. So that's where we saw the discrepancy in the passenger revenue here. And other than that, the revenue from the Port Council meeting hasn't changed materially. So that's the reason why we're seeing a revenue decrease of $900,000 for the month of December. Year to date, the big driver has been for the year is the standard fare automobiles, where automobile revenue is down $3.2 million. As we've discussed all year, the standard fare autos are down in that category. But year to date, we're down $4 million for operating revenue. The other income, we're down $1.8 million. That's a derivative of the grant revenue we talked about. We had two projects that we didn't do this year, so we didn't have the expenses to recognize the grant revenue. That was the Vineyard Haven project, which is undergoing currently right now, as well as the dry dock on the Sankaty. So those two projects combined for about, $2.4 million. So if we don't have the expenses, we don't have the grant revenue. And that's an 80-20 match on the grant revenue. And so of every dollar we spend, 80 cents we get reimbursed for. On the next slide is the operating expenses. So for the month, we're down $721,000. We had a couple year-end adjusting entries, and with the GASBs, GASB 67 and 68 is the recognition on pension expenses, where our liability came down. We had some offsetting entries for some deferred inflows and outflows and some expectations going on, as well as GASB 101. We had an increase in our expenses, and that's cost associated with the part-time the paid time off liability we have. So we have to show with adoption of GASB 1 what the effects of the payroll taxes and pension expenses, et cetera, would be. So we do that entry every year. But year to date, we're down operating expenses of $4.6 million. As I mentioned before, the maintenance of 2.7, that's really accountable for those two projects that I just mentioned before. Just give an idea in January where we stand for passengers traffic. We're down 7,764 passengers combined. If you look at the weather in January, we lost a couple full weekends with storms or impending storms. And this is such a small amount for the whole year, the 12 months. Do expect us to be able to make up that difference going forward. And then for the vehicles carried, we can see here we're down about 1,500 vehicles for both routes combined. The Vineyard's down in all categories, while the Nantucket Run is down just in the excursion fare trucks. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any, before I go there, the next month's slides, we'll be having the monthly cost of service analysis that was requested last year. Our team is working on that. On page 10 of the business summary is the cascading of funds cash statements. I can put a slide in that if we want, or I can just leave it in the business summary as is. That's at the board's request. And so with that, I'd answer any questions anyone has.
Mark, could I get a hard copy of the report?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'd
Jim?
like to
Oh.
save your runs.
Yes.
Yeah. Jim?
Thank you.
Jim?
Mark, in terms of the recognition of the revenue from the books, I expect then, from what you're hearing, is we'll finish out this current year, it will impact next year, and then the Steamship Authority will be back on track once we establish a pattern of how to recognize the revenue.
We should be back on track next year, so we're recognized it this year. So we look
Okay.
at if we had to refund every single book out for the unused tickets,
Correct.
that's what the value would be. We're going to do an assessment next year when we migrate the data over, look at where we have.
Right.
It's going to be similar to the GASB 101 entry. Look at what we posted before, what the value is now, make that adjustment when we bring it over. And then as each coupon book gets used, it goes from deferred revenue to earned
Right.
revenue.
Well, it's a timing issue on the revenue recognition rather than an issue of revenue fall off.
Correct. It's just timing. That's all it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions from? So Mark, I think moving forward, it would be helpful if there was a slide, page 10, about the cascading funds. In part, because we'll discuss this later in the meeting, as we look at our vessel replacement plan, I think we need to make sure we're hitting our targets on building our capital fund as we make our capital investments towards our vessels, as well as the upcoming Nantucket project. Do you anticipate that this trend of automobile revenue going down on the standard fare will continue? Are we going to level off?
I was thinking we would be leveling off because a couple months ago, I don't have the statistics, we were pretty much close to where the ratio of standard fare to excursion fare, we had COVID happen, and then the standard fare far outpaced what the excursion fare percentage was. Then after COVID, we normalized, but that number keeps decreasing where the excursion is a higher percentage of the overall automobiles. This month was a little off with the weather. So in February will be a good barometer, or March when we have a normal month, to see if that has bottomed out or is that a continuing trend.
Just angered the weather gods.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the Head Start reservations or the general opening, the general public reservations looked pretty comparable to last year on the Vineyard route.
Okay. I think adding that cost to service will be helpful as we may want to start discussing potential fare schemes sooner rather than later, not just towards the end of this calendar year.
Yeah. So as we do the audit, we prepare the annual cost of service book. We do, that's part of some of the audit schedules we do. We roll them over, but my team's working on preparing something on a monthly basis for us to put in the report as well. And obviously it's got to fluctuate during the course of the year as the expenses are realized.
Any other questions from the board? Next item for you.
Debt issuance and management policy. Every 2 years, on the even years, we do our debt policy, and on the odd years, we do an investment policy. In the packet, there's a copy of the debt management policy. There are only 2 items that changed since the last time we issued this in 2024. One is in section 5, which is the amount of bonds outstanding. As of December 31st, 2025, we had 92,645,000 in bonds outstanding. Comparatively, in 2023, we had $91,230,000 in bonds outstanding. The other item that changed was in section 10. It's just the date of when the investment policy was last amended, which was on January 20th, 2025. We have a principal payment due on March 1st of $10,855,000, which the arrangements for the payment have already been made with the bank. With this, the only bonds we have outstanding are the 2015, 2017, 2018, 2020, 2023, and 2025 bond issuances. At the Port Council meeting earlier this month, the Port Council voted to recommend the adoption of the debt policy program. Debt program policy, sorry. So with that, I look for a vote to approve it.
Are there any questions before I ask for a motion?
No question.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the changing the debt issuance and debt management policy?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll
yes.
call. Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
discussion point. I think it to the comment that was made earlier about the cascading of funds and having a slide for that. I think that's a really good idea because very few of our interested listeners understand the impact of how the cascading funds, which is required by our legislation, works and its impact on the steamship's financials. So I think that makes a lot of sense as we look at our debt policy and the funding for future boats. Thank you.
Before we go, I do have a tangential question.
Okay.
So after this next payment under this policy, where will we be at the start of 2027 in terms of our available bonding limit?
Sure. So once we make the payment on March 1st, actually, I think it's going to be the 2nd because of the weekend of the 3rd. But anyways, we'll be at 81,790,000, which will give us 68,000 to 68 million. Sorry, I'm doing my own count. 68,210,000 in bonding availability because we have a $150 million bond limit. Yeah, I think that is the numbers in my head.
So, and I guess in terms of foreshadowing, as we talk later in the meeting about the board agenda, I do think it will be important that when we look at our capital improvement plans, especially useful life vessel replacement, that we keep in mind what our bonding limits are, what they may need to be, and where we will be in time each budget year.
And for next month, what I can do is show what the bond payments upcoming are for each year. It's in the annual report, but I can show that these are pretty level for the next few years off the top of my head, but showing how much principal we're going to be paying down accordingly.
Because I presume that $68 million is not enough to build a Woods Hole hybrid style vessel.
We would need some help.
Any other questions, discussion? All right, roll call vote to approve the recommended changes to the debt issuance and debt management policy.
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Knock and I.
Randy, aye.
All right, it's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. We will now move to general manager's report.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, board, for being here. Thank you, public, for being here as well. I'm very excited to have my second board meeting. Before I get into it, I just want to introduce everybody who's here from the Steamship Authority. Obviously, we just heard from Mark Rozum, Terrence Keneally, our chief counsel, is here. Mark Amundsen, our COO, is here just down the desk from me. Out in the audience, we have Janice Kenefick, our director of HR, Allison Fletcher, our director of shoreside operations. Stephen Coleman is our director of IT, and Tom Ennis from True North, or actually from Gibbous, who's our project manager for the True North initiative, is here. As well as Caroline Muldoon, who's our director of grants. So the first order I have on my list is the update on the 2026 preseason versus last year, the 2025 preseason. And the report that I've been given is that we're up 0.1% over last year and for reservations, and we're up 6.7% in revenue, which matches what our increase in rates were. Next, we're going to run through the vessel repair and dry dock status, as well as the update on the Woods Hole Terminal. Mark Amundsen is going to take us through that. We're changing the format a bit and trying to make it more efficient and more streamlined. So, Mark, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start off with the MV Monomoy. Okay, she's currently doing her final outfitting in Fairhaven at our maintenance facility. There's a quick snapshot of the current milestone status. We're really at the point of just completing periodic testing with the U.S. Coast Guard, and the Wi-Fi is complete. CCTV is in progress. Vending machines and plaque installation are near completion, and just trying to get a little more favorable weather for doing our final painting of truck lanes, etc. Next slide. So snapshot for the Monomoy, the budget for this vessel was 80.9 million. The current estimate is 87.8 million, and the delta change in budget is 6.8 million. With that, I'd be willing to take any questions.
Any questions?
Just when do you anticipate completion to put it in service?
Well, right now we're trying to line up right now we got to do the Coast Guard sea trial for the entrance and issuance of the COI. So we anticipate that being in March. I think Alex may have something a date for the commissioning and into service sometime mid-April. If I'm not speaking out of step.
Is the shutdown affecting Coast Guard inspections at the moment?
It's a very good question. Right now, we're at a point of testing, which I don't think it would even. There's various parts of civilian aspect of the Coast Guard, and also, for instance, I think we're in a good place. I don't think it's going to affect our final delivery, but it is a fluid situation right now, obviously.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay, next is the Woods Hole repair highlights right now. She's on, as it stands right now, she's on company sea trials today. We've completed bow thruster repairs are complete. The port main engine resealing is complete. Replacement of a keel cooler complete. Coast Guard inspection, that's part of the sea trial ongoing. The U.S. Coast Guard sea trial is scheduled for the 19th, and our return to service date, which we feel we're very 24th of February, which we're in line to do. With that, take any questions.
Any questions?
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Mark, given the government shutdown, and given the efforts that the Steamship is making in terms of bringing in, pilots, deck officers, and so on and so forth, do you see an impact on our development of staff?
No, we're able to do, our training is going on as scheduled. I don't see that having any impact on our captain pilot training program, and as well as other programs within the crew.
Well, what about the testing that needs to get done? The Coast Guard testing.
Again, as I was pointing out before, we have certain inspectors which are civilian, and those are usually furloughed by the U.S. Coast Guard first and the full service people that are in the US Coast Guard maintain. So right now, I don't see we're pretty much at the end of our testing. So we feel we're in a good position. I don't see the impact of the Monomoy being affected.
Well, I'm just talking about the development of our own people, pilots, captains, and so on.
Talking about the Marine Exam Centers, I think there's one up in Boston that has been shut down due to the shutdown. It has been shut down due to the shutdown. And from what I understand, the last time we had a shutdown, it did take a while for it to spool back up again. I think we have 3 people that were supposed to be testing this week. And of course, they can't at this point. I don't think that's going to impact our summer schedule, from what I understand, but it will cause a delay in them getting tested. But
thank you. That's where I was going in terms of our ability to provide service with the right staff. Thank you.
What are they testing for, captains?
Captain's licenses, yeah.
Good.
Okay, with that, next. So next we have the Island Home, which is at Thames Shipyard. Things are going well. We did run into an issue with the clutches on one of the reduction gear. We'll get into that in the procurement side. But you can see there's a percentage completed on the right-hand side. Shafting has been pulled out on both the Martha's Vineyard and the Woods Hole end for reconditioning with new bearings. We get to the milestone section further. So with that, we're in a good place for completing on time. The contract value of the dry dock is 1.52 million. We've had change orders to date of 24,649, which brings a total value of the contract to 1.56 million. Again, we'll talk later in procurement during inspections with the gearbox and our planned maintenance program. We identified an issue with the clutch on one of the reduction gear, and we'll have a $117,000 change order we'll be getting later in procurement. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Okay. Next, MV Iono. She's currently at Fairhaven Shipyard. We're getting near the end. Currently, our budget, we have, let me go back to some of the milestones here. So we're looking at, we docked her on the 7th, and we're getting ready completion here to get her back over to Fairhaven for her final outfitting and preparation for the for the season. The next slide. So the contract value is $525,000. We've had 46,000 to date in credits, and our grand total presently is 479,000. That, we want to take any questions?
Any questions from the board? No questions.
Okay. Next item we have is the Woods Hole terminal update, which Mark will.
Excuse me, before Mark Amundsen goes.
Sure.
Mark, is there an issue with the Aquinas engine?
No, they had a starter motor on one of the engines that had to be changed. We do a lot of starting in the mornings. These are large starters. We have spares on board. It was just a matter of these are larger starters that require more manpower. We have actually found an issue with the type of starter that came outfitted with the engine. We have been changing out to a turbine type of starter, which we expect to get, which we have in the rest of the fleet, which we have better reliability on. So we did our best to try to get that turned around and before having to cancel a trip, but we just couldn't quite get there. So that is.
So are these starter issues due to the weather difference and the cold up here versus down in the south?
No, it's just that we do a lot of starts per day. and starts per year on these. We change the starters out every year, but it is a maintenance issue, and you know, we didn't quite get to the Aquina repair period. All the starters were renewed prior to placing the vessel in service. We expected to get a better performance out of the starters. However, we are going to be switching to a different turbine type of starter that aligns better with the rest of the, we use these in the rest of the fleet and have better performance.
Thank you.
If I could follow up, if we were using something that has better performance than the rest of the fleet, why did we go with this starter to begin with?
It came with the vessel. When we overhauled it in the shipyard, we weren't aware of the performance issue on it.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the Woods Hole construction project. So as you can see, we're finishing up. We're looking at this is the main terminal building slide. So this is the utility building. We're at the completion date. We're looking at an occupancy date for the 23rd of February. So we did the final walkthrough last week, and so presently we have our crew, our employees in there for training and commissioning of all the equipment. So we're in the takeover process and actually hoping to be using that building coming up in the month of March for our employees. The building came out very nice. If you get some more photos there, Sean. So the exterior, as you can see, is complete. Inside the utility, it's everything is 100% complete. So right now, the value of the project is 32.1 million. We've had change orders to date, and this is for the overall project of 1.57 million, which represents 4.9% of the project. Overall project completion is 74.9%. With that, I'd take any questions.
I have a couple of questions, but anyone else from the board? All right. So one, I've gotten several inquiries from people in the village about light pollution from the Woods Hole Terminal and unshielded lights. So if we could take a look at that and address that, I think primarily looking at most recent was lights near slip 3 appear to be unshielded. Also, I just as a point of information, I do know that there has been a request to the Falmouth Public Health to start monitoring perhaps potential pollution down at the Woods Hole Terminal, and there may be a request to have some type of air monitor down there, which I would think we should be open to. And then where are we in our coordination of the traffic flow study with the town, the Department of Public Works, and the Falmouth Police Department?
So we've been working with a third-party contractor on this, and I believe that the report will be ready for the March board meeting. It's in progress at the moment. I know we've heard that for a number of months, but we've just gone to some different levels of looking at the overall, and it's just taken a little bit longer than anticipated.
I would suggest that just like we have with True North Project and looking at policy updates, how we've had these town hall meetings, that we look to hold a town hall meeting in Woods Hole for the Falmouth Port community on our proposed traffic flow and the outcome, and that we have a lot of transparency on this.
Absolutely, yeah, I would 100% agree. Yeah, we're looking to coordinate with the city, the business community, the bike coalition, and the general public down there as well. Yes, you know, we're just trying to finalize this what we had initially was a flow pattern within the terminal. Now it's kind of expanded to a full pattern. How do we coordinate with the outside streets as well? So once we have that nailed down, we can take that to the community.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Next item.
The next item is an update on the True North program and our new reservation system. So as previously mentioned, we did have a couple town hall sessions or information sessions last week. That the first one was we had over 100 people attending online, and it lasted about 2 hours. The second day, I think it was over 50 people participated. Lots of great questions, lots of great suggestions. We've taken those all in. And we'll be adopting, as much as we can, and we're trying to finalize this and make this as efficient and supportive as possible to the ridership. It definitely helps us. This new system helps the reservation system, our reservation team, but we do look at this as a great benefit for the traveling public as well, and especially our excursion and preferred partners. We do expect that, once we will continue to have public forums. Definitely both online, in person. Fully expect that we'll be back out on the islands to talk to people about these systems and how they work. And it's going to take a lot of training, a lot of communication to get people up to speed, make sure they're comfortable with the system. And we're going to be doing things online. We have now a True North landing page on the website where we have frequently asked questions. We're going to continue to expand that. There'll definitely be items that we'll put into social media talking about how things work. Sean's already started that process and done a great job of that. Again, we're still taking suggestions from the public on how to get the information out, how to best utilize the system. And again, we have a ways to go before we actually launch it. We're not planning on launching until, as you can see here from the slide, the implementation plan. We're going to be doing a lot of testing over the summer. We have a lot of people signed up to be beta testers. We're taking on more people there. They're expecting to have a initial launch in late fall of this year for winter bookings, and then a full rollout next year. But so far we're on track. I'm gonna roll the next slide. We've had one change in one section, the external infrastructure. We've changed to yellow just out of abundance of caution, to make sure that we're focusing on both the internal and external infrastructure, make sure we have the right wiring, we have the right setups, that we can order everything, make sure everything's online. We are fairly confident with the external infrastructure, but again, for the abundance of caution, we changed that to yellow, just to make sure it's a point of focus for us. And with that, I have any other questions? Yeah, as far as policies, we do have, there's policies that we need to bring to the board for approval, and we are looking to have a separate meeting to talk about those and get those approved.
Any questions? Jim, do you have any questions? I would just say that in terms of scheduling our board port council meeting, it would be helpful if we could lay out what policies we need to make a decision on now at that joint board port council meeting, and then what policy decisions are still in play working for that aren't critical to making a decision now, but so that the public knows they still have time to engage as to those other policies.
We can do that, yes.
All right.
Next item is Sean Driscoll's proposed commercial film policy that got approved by the Port Council. We want to bring it to the board as well.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm bringing forward today a commercial filming policy that will establish a framework for the use of our vessels or terminals.
John, volume.
Okay, all right. I don't have a lot of credibility right now telling you to turn your microphones on. I apologize. As I was saying, to bringing forward a commercial filming policy to establish a framework for using the vessels and terminal facilities as a venue for commercial filming and photographic activities by production companies. As I'm sure many of us know, the Vineyard and Nantucket are always popular filming locations, increasingly so in the last few years, and the Steamship Authority is occasionally approached about using the vessels or facilities as locations for shoots. They've been handled on a case-by-case basis thus far, but the frequency of these is increasing to the point where I'd really like a policy to include a fee structure for these. All of these activities have to be done under escort by myself or a member of my department. As proposed, the policy would have an administrative fee plus a $100 per employee per hour charge related to all film activities, and that structure is included in the draft policy. Regardless of the size, everyone needs to submit a request form, give us certain liability and workers' comp insurance information, and then sign release forms from each member of the production crew. I did want to note this doesn't apply to any filming by credentialed members of the media, although those do also need to be done by permission and with an escort due to our security policies. And if this is approved, we would update section 5.5 of the combined terminal policies, which relates to commercial photography, to be consistent with this. As I had noted at the Port Council, we generally try to find a way to yes on these requests, because having our terminals and our boats in productions looking fabulous is good for the authority and good for all of us. It's just it's a process, and it takes time to get that done properly. So which is why we're trying to frame up this policy. And at the February 3rd board meeting, as Gordon noted, the Port Council voted to recommend the matter to the board. So I'm asking for approval of the policy as proposed and to authorize the general manager to amend section 5.5 of the combined terminal policies to be consistent with the commercial filming policy. And with that, I would take any questions.
Any questions? Jim?
Yeah. Sean, what's the downside of this?
The downside of filming on the Steamship Authority property is mostly just one related to
Security?
resources to manage it. Generally speaking, the film crews are really good at working with us to avoid summer. The standing rule is that they have to work around our operations. Our operations do not work around them. So, for example, on Nantucket, when we were doing a multi-day film shoot for production this fall, they understood that they had to film around the trucks that were offloading a barge. They were on the Eagle. They knew that the Eagle would have to operate as scheduled, and their filming would have to go around that. So I've not had any problems since I've been here with film crews, not being able to work within our constraints. And if they aren't able to, then the filming request would simply not be approved. So there are very few downsides to being a part of it. I feel, just from a public relations and sort of a marketing standpoint, it's good to see everyone still talks about the Islander being in Jaws, right? So
Yeah.
I just think it's just a matter of having something in writing so that we have a starting point for conversations about a charge for this, which the policy as I'm putting forward will read very similarly to the MBTA policy and to the Washington State Ferry policy. This is sort of a standard, part of doing business for a lot of transit agencies.
Thank you. Sean, here's the issue, and maybe this is an operational issue for Alex or Allison. My concern is in our heavy summer months, any delays, any impact on our schedules and our ability to load and unload the vessels to make our schedules. And does it make any sense then to have an embargo on doing this sort of thing in the summer months? And
effectively, I do. As a matter of policy, we don't. We have been able to get some very small shoots in the summertime, but the number one thing I tell everybody, and that's in the request form, is that they work around our schedule, not the other way around. I have never held a boat for a film shot, and would never do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To follow that up, Sean, how do we take into account to traffic and its impact of these crews at our terminals?
Usually the crews are small. Most of them are already on the Vineyard, honestly, or Nantucket. Most of them have been island based. So if the shoot that we had in the fall in Nantucket was by far the biggest thing we've ever had. Usually it's a crew of, less than 10. They drop them off at the terminal, they walk on, they do the thing, and then they're done. So most of these are minimal shots at best. The one on Nantucket, we worked with that crew for weeks to find spots where they could set up that wouldn't affect traffic flow. And I don't want to speak for the terminal manager, Rich, but we had a good experience with them because we had the time to work on that. So again, if it's going to affect traffic flow or negatively affect operations, it won't happen. The operations come first, full stop.
And do you plan, with the adoption of like a formal policy, do you plan then to be listed as a resource at the Massachusetts Film Office?
That's a good question I can look at. They have found us without us having to do that. So once we have a policy, I would probably reach out to let the people at the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism know we have the policy and point them to it. That's usually who I work with is Mont when they'll get a request and refer them to me. I'm not setting up the policy to go out there looking for business. It's just more when business comes to find us, we have something to rely on.
And is there any revenue projection with this?
This is mostly a covering costs, covering our costs, not so much as a moneymaker.
Even a percentage of the film. Huh?
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Been approved. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
John Doe.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Before we jump into the next item, Terrence Mealy's next item, I just was remiss in not thanking the crew that helped out for the information sessions. Ian Michaels put together an amazing package of slides for us. Sean Driscoll was great running the show, and very cool under pressure the first night where we had some technical issues. Extremely cool. Allison, Stephen, Mark, everybody helped out and kind of leaned in, and it was great. I think it went across really well. So I was well supported. The next item is the Robert B. Hour transportation from New Bedford.
And I have turned on my microphone. Good morning, everybody. So really what we're doing today is just following up on our discussion that we had 2 weeks ago at the Port Council meeting regarding offshore tug and transportation, otherwise known as Robert Hour. Request to provide freight service from New Bedford to Nantucket. Again, this request derived back in January of 2025, following some discussions that Robert Hour had with the town of Nantucket and Waste Options, which does their solid waste program over there. And then we took some time over the course of 2025 to kind of further understand it, get some feedback, had some hearings, talked about it at several meetings, and now here we are to the point where I drafted up a staff summary and a draft license agreement for circulation and discussion that was posted in our packet, and hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at that. But essentially what we're looking at here is a limited window, two times a week at 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. is a window for them to arrive at the terminal and perform their operations, whether it's loading or unloading cargoes that were brought from New Bedford or back to New Bedford. The concerns that we flushed out of the public hearings was, how is it going to be paid for and what's in it for the authority. Again, so in addition to dockage fees, where we've proposed a license fee equivalent to 100% of the authority's total average revenue per truck over 20 feet for its Nantucket route in 2024 for each vehicle carried on a one-way basis between New Bedford and Nantucket. And essentially, that's about $500 to $550, I think it was, dollars. I'd have to go back and look at the cost of service book that Alex has here right in front of him. But it's around that figure. And then the dockage fee would be about $500, per dockage. So we got that out for discussion. We had a good, robust discussion with Mr. Lowell and Mr. Carr, and particularly at the last Port Council meeting. From that discussion, we asked Robert Ira to give us some feedback, which they're in the process of doing. I know their boat's heading into the yard, and we wish them luck with that in the next couple of weeks here. So it's somewhat of a open-ended issue right now as we get more feedback. I also, as Gordon mentioned, we need some more feedback from the city of New Bedford, which might have some requirements with regards to the delivery of solid waste to its port. So we're going to work with him on that and then come back with something more definitive for the board to review and vote upon. But for right now, this is just for talking points and getting some feedback from you folks and see what else we need to put into the calculus. So with that, I'm open to any further comments, questions, or we can move on, whatever the board prefers to do.
Any comments, questions from board?
It's like it's a wait and see.
At this point, I agree with that, Bob. Yeah, we're still getting most of the information together.
I read the license over again today, this morning, and you know, personally, I don't see any problems or any reasons I wouldn't vote against it, but I do want to hear from New Bedford and any other contingencies. I mean, the longer you wait, the more contingency you get. So we'll wait till it's on the table.
Okay. Anything else? All righty then. So I'll like I said, I'll work with the offshore and Gordon, and then get some more information together for you folks, and we'll be back at a later meeting. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Alex, if I can kind of introduce the next. So the next item is update on the general manager action plan. But I wanted to address this in general, that this is in part a continuation of our discussion from the January meeting when Alex first came on board, in response in part to the IG's report and recommendations. And additionally, after we then go through procurement on new business, I have an item, board action items for 2026. We'll continue our conversation amongst the board as to how we will address the IG report and recommendations moving forward. So just that this is going to be a twofold conversation. And I think several of us had input and discussion with Alex on this general manager work plan that he'll now present.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, this is as Peter said, is a follow-up to my presentation from last month. This is an initial draft. It's definitely things that I've presented to the board as how I'd like to proceed with the next year, next 2 years. This will also roll into a strategic plan as well for as how we're going to do a vessel replacement program. But again, this is just an initial draft. I have started conducting one-on-ones. We're working through that. I am finding that this is fairly aggressive because there's a lot I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to understand about the Steamship Authority. There's many layers. It's takes me back to Shrek. There's a lot of layers to this onion. And you got to really peel it apart and figure out where everything is, who's in charge of what. I've been very pleased with the level of engagement and the support that I get from staff. They've been fabulous, really great to work with so far, and I expect that's going to continue. But again, this is really just a draft. I'm trying to get through it. I know some of the dates are a little bit tight, but we are working. This is the initial stepping off point. So I don't know if you've had time to really digest it or look at it, if you have any specific questions of me or how I plan to make some of these happen.
Alex, I would say, even though I'm the one who was moved for a briefing so that we have more time to discuss and work through, I think it would be important to actually just go through in a little bit more detail each phase of your plan. And with that, before that, I guess, Jim, you had a question or a comment?
Well, Alex asked if there are any comments on the plan. If you want to present the work on the plan or an outline of the plan for us, I'll hold my questions till then.
Yeah, I just think this will help us form to our conversation of board action items, because some of these are action items for the board.
Okay. Okay, well, I can go through step by step. So in the short term, immediate actions, actually, this should be 0 to 120 days, not 90 days. The first one is governance, oversight, role clarity. This is me really digging into what the job of general manager is for the Steamship Authority. How does it apply to Falmouth, to the actual office there? How do I then interact with crews and with the general community? As I said, I've already started conducting one-on-one meetings with all senior level and mid-level managers, and I do expect that to expand, not just Falmouth, but also terminal managers, agents, reservation center, everybody. I want to get to know, I want to get to know everybody, but I also want to understand what their roles are, how they see the Steamship Authority, where the opportunities and challenges lie. It's been very informative so far. The next thing is document and publish an updated decision rights matrix. This will be for the board and the general manager and management. This is kind of helping us decide who can make what decision, what kind of support they need, what kind of documentation they need for that. Establish a board reporting template. That's what I'm trying to do with these boards and how we actually report out vessel repairs, the Woods Hole terminal updates. Trying to make that a really good standardized quick format so we can jump through it and then spend the rest of the time at board meetings really talking about issues and making decisions on how we want to lead the Steamship Board, Steamship Authority further.
Alex, if I could just jump in.
Sure.
Just to marry this then with the recommendations in the IG's report to the board, there were basically 5 recommendations to the board, and looking at recommendation 2, it goes to the board needs to revise board policies to specify the matters requiring notice to the board, and even where a vote may not be required. So this idea of document and publish updated decision right matrix goes directly to addressing that recommendation. We'll talk about that a little bit more under the board action plan, action items. But as well as establishing a board reporting template. So this goes to directly addressing that recommendation in the report, as well as number 3, clarify with the newly appointed general manager the board's expectation of the interplay between his position and the senior advisor role. So both those 2 recommendations are being directly addressed by this point in the action plan. Thank you.
And the last one is the first section is launch a quarterly strategic review calendar. Again, this is 90 days. It's going to take probably longer than that to really understand what the strategic opportunities are for the Steamship Authority and how that process is actually going to play out over the course of the next several years.
I'm sorry, Jim had a, before we move.
No,
on.
I was waiting for Alex to finish.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay. The second is financial controls, planning, and transparency. I think that's one of the things the IG report said, that we weren't great on controlling our finances, and that's something I'm going to work closely with Mark to kind of nail down how we spend our money, how we approve the spending of the money, how we plan for the spending of money. The cascading funds report will help with that, but we definitely need to launch a 24-month financial forecast, because we do need to start planning for replacing some of the boats. A couple of our boats are over 50 years old, so we need to have a plan in place and how we're going to replace them, what we're going to replace them with, and where we're going to get the funds to do that, because they're not getting any cheaper. There was an announcement over the weekend that President Trump has proposed a new proposal for improving shipping in the U.S. and building more ships. which is great, but it probably also means that shipbuilding is going to get more expensive. So we need to be prepared for that. The second phase is structural reforms. The first part of that is a multi-year financial plan integration. Again, we want to align our operating budget with the capital plan because, again, we're trying to build new ships. We have to update some of our terminals. The Nantucket terminal is coming up next. We need to update that. So all this is going to require a lot of financial planning and a lot of development as to exactly where we're going to get those funds and how we're going to pay for things. I definitely want to implement a monthly variance reporting dashboard that's going to show how we're getting. I think that's the cascading funds will help with that. And again, we have our labor agreement cost projections. That's something that's an ongoing challenge with, we have 7 or 8 different unions. So we need to be working in lockstep with them and have a clear plan on how we're going to cover those costs because those are ever increasing. The next section is the strategic planning and operational alignment. I wanted to develop a comprehensive board-approved strategic plan. I know there's a strategic plan in place now. We need to update that for the future so that we can incorporate the net zero requirements for Massachusetts, because that's coming up. 2050 is not that far away when you're talking about designing and building boats that are hybrid electric or all electric, if we can possibly do that. Workforce development and succession plan. That's something I need to work on with Janice to make sure that we have a lot of people that have been with the Steamship Port Authority for a long time. And if they all decided to retire at once, we don't have the kind of deep bench that we need to keep the Steamship Authority running smoothly. So that's something we need to work on and build up. And again, we'll have an annual review of the strategic plan so that we make sure that we're staying on target for that. And again, a lot of these things are, if not directly as a result of the IG report, they're tangentially a result of the IG report. The third phase is a cultural and accountability shift. One of the things that I've, governance, I should stick to the script. The governance maturity is a board of governance training session. I think that's something important. These sections are all, I will be working in conjunction with the board chair and the board themselves to develop, approve board goals, adopt board self-evaluation process. These are things that I will be looking to the board to help with, and we definitely from the Steamship Authority will be there to support it and make sure that it works properly. And then finally is transparency and public trust. That's something we definitely need to work on. I think we started that with these information sessions. My plan is to be very much present in the public, make sure we'll have a number of town halls, maybe not huge ones, but informal information sessions, Friday on the ferry with Alex or something like that. Times when I go out to the islands and just spend a morning in a coffee shop and talk to people. We really want to get the Steamship Authority's trust built back up in the community. And, I think the Steamship Authority has done an incredibly great job of representing the public and especially the islanders and the full-time island residents. But it's something we need to really kind of communicate out to the public and to the full-time island people. I think our information sessions were well received, and it's going to be important to do that, as we talked about with the Woods Hole, going down and talk to the business community, talk to the Bike Coalition, not just me, but a lot of the senior staff of the Steamship Authority. We need to get out into the public and let them know that we're not there just moving boats. We're there to keep the lifeline going. And with that, we'll try to publish a quarterly performance dashboard. And then, of course, an annual State of the Authority report. I know Washington State Ferry does something similar to that, and I'm going to be using that template for something that the Steamship Authority can do as well.
Roll thought open.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? We also will circle back to this under new business in regards to what action items, agenda items that we as a board want to pursue or information, but directly related to Alex's laid out action plan. Jim?
Thank you. I'm really, really pleased to see Alex's action plan and the milestones and the metrics. It's something that we at the board have talked about for a number of years. I'm happy to see that he's brought it forward and formalized it, not only for frankly, not so much for the benefit of the IAG, but frankly for the Steamship Authority itself and the board and its employees and its community. So I think that's really positive. I want to commend Alex for having developed this as he, in the midst of learning everything else that he's learning. But the rigor is important. The process is important. We've talked about it for a while, and it's great to see it happening. I do think, Alex, that you should take a look, having read this document. You may need to push your timelines out a little bit. That's pretty compressed with a lot of stuff. So, set yourself up for success and let's do it right. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is development, work in progress. You can't just, turn a button and say, okay, we're gonna do all these things, and a manager comes down and says, no, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do here? What does it say in this thing here? You're developing a culture, so this comes natural. What you're putting in there really should be in everybody's mind, because on a day-to-day, when you're working and things like that, you don't have time to think, now, am I following rule number, 27.2, or, that doesn't hurt. So you're developing, a culture around the whole thing. And when you mentioned that secession and things, when Bob Davis took over, there was only 2 senior staff members left. 2.
Right.
And all the rest of them had been here 50 years and whatever, but Mark and Kim. So he had to, reconstruct the whole first team. And the first team is sitting here right now from, what he put together. And I think we've got a good first team. So
I agree. I think we have a great team. And this is, I latch onto this. This was the IG report kind of helped synthesize the plan, but this is really just my work plan. I considered calling it the IG response plan, but then this is the EM's work plan. This is what my job's going to be for the next several years, and it's
exactly right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I'll reserve any till we get to the board's action items, my comments.
The next item we have is for procurement. Zach Lawrence, our port engineer, couldn't be here today, but Mark Amundsen will take on his 2 topics.
Good morning again, and we'll start off with the dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Barnstable. It seems like it just came out of Alabama Shipyard, and we're here in getting into the first dry dock cycle. This is a standard dry dock cycle, which we have to do to start off for the U.S. Coast Guard. So with that, we have planned coating work, thruster work, propulsion control, underwater coatings. The 2026 operating budget was 1.6 million. The bid that came in originally from Thames Shipyard was 2.8 million. Now, we kind of came in at an early time period to get it into the dry dock cycle. So what we have done is as you can see for the vessel, the coatings are in excellent condition. And we have right now we've moved some of those to the next dry docking. So with that, I just want to add that when we got these 3 vessels, we did an extensive ultrasonic gauging of the vessels, and they're quite frankly, they're brand new vessels. They were used for a few years and put in mothballs. And one of the things that we need to do going forward, and I've been really pushing this with my staff, is coatings. Coatings are expensive, but if you protect the coatings right now, you'll protect the vessel you can get 30 to 50 years out of a vessel. So with that, we just kind of tapered back on the coatings. So we've got a bid back after adjustment of 1.7 million, which is within, I believe, 3% over the original budget, and would be asking the board to approve this.
That this is being in the budget for grant funds. It'll be an 80-20 match as well, just for.
want that now?
So with that, would ask to authorize the general manager to award 13-2025 dry docking and overhaul services for the Barnstable for to the lowest responsible bidder and total contract price of 1.706 million to Thames Shipyard of New London, Connecticut.
It's been moved by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion, questions?
How much are they, where is the coating going?
Excuse me?
Where is the coating going?
That'll be everywhere from the keel right up to the top of the superstructure. So we've just identified areas which we have just done, and it's an immaculate condition and inspection, so we pared back the coatings.
So does that mean you're grinding all the surface down again?
No, we've concentrated just on the underwater areas for protection. If you look at the Barnstable, and the coatings are immaculate on it.
Okay.
We just kind of came in early in the dry dock cycle
Yeah.
to a point where you would not normally, have done that. And so the next dry dock cycle will have the coatings more aligned with the life cycle of the vessel.
So this is basically a bottom coat?
Yeah, this is going to be a bottom coating right up to the deep load line.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Doc and I.
Manny, aye.
It's been approved.
Thank you. The next item is the clutch packs that Mark had mentioned before on the Island Home.
Yeah, so we did, I believe it was in 2021, we did a major overhaul, a 60,000-hour overhaul of both the reduction gears, and so in normal in preparation, we look at our lube oil analysis, we bring in the OEM, which in this case is Renke's reduction gear or Carl Center, and they did an inspection, and we found an issue with the clutch pack. And the recommendation is to change that out. And when we get it up to Fairhaven during the repair part of this, we're going to change out the clutch pack in this to keep. To me, this is a huge win. It's identifying planned maintenance, identifying preventive before it happens, and we'll change that out and have that's part of the planned maintenance program. So therefore, we're asking the board to approve to authorize the general manager for purchasing parts and labor to replace the clutch packs on one of the reduction gears in the MV Island Home to Carl Center of New Orleans, Louisiana, for a total contract price of $117,510.
Is there a motion to approve? Question first.
Well, whose transmission is in there?
Renke's.
Okay.
Yeah, Carl Center is the authorized rep in the US for
And-
Renke's gears.
And these are hydraulic or mechanical?
The clutch is hydraulic.
Hydraulic.
It uses oil pressure to compress the disc pack to engage the shaft for the main engine in both directions.
Just the curiosity question, the shaft in the Island Home is carbon fiber?
Yes, it is between the main engine and the shafting, correct?
Just for the audience, how much does that weigh?
Good question. I don't know that the weight of that offhand. It's I believe it's about 12 feet long. It's carbon fiber, and it's used to keep the vibration from transmitting from the engines to the hull, and it does a fantastic job at that.
So it's not steel, acrometa or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Doc and I.
Manny, aye.
All right, it's been approved.
Okay, that's our report.
Okay. So moving on to new business, we have one item listed, which is board action items for 2026. I wanted to take the opportunity as a board for us to discuss, like Alex set forth, a work plan, what the board's work plan will be for this year of 2026. What priorities do we want to set for the general manager in terms of capital projects, information we need as a board, as well as take the opportunity to have our action items work plan address the recommendations in the IG report. And just as Alex said, I want this to be a work plan, not a response necessarily to the IG report, but informed by the IG report that we've all taken a look at. And just to kind of review what the IG recommended to the board was for all of us to review the enabling act of the Steamship Authority, which I think we all have done. And that's why I plan at least to start all of our board meetings while I'm chair with just a restatement of our mission statement from the strategic plan at the beginning of each meeting to frame just exactly what the authority's role is and what we are supposed to do. And that is to provide adequate transportation of passengers and the necessities of life to and from the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. The next is the IG asked us to take a look at our board policies. And I think what I would recommend, and this will be open for further discussion with the board, I do think that we should this year take a look at our bylaws, perhaps ask a specific board member, perhaps to work with the GM and the general counsel to review our bylaws to see if any needs to be updated and then report back to the board in general within a certain time frame. And I just want to go through this and then we can open up for discussion. I've also spoken to Alex in regards to the board policies. I think we need to have the authority review its procurement policy and its procurement plan and see what the board may need to do to update that policy and procurement plan, when in particular we want to be notified, especially when it comes to larger capital purchases and our role in approving RFPs or being involved in the RFP, which we already had done to some extent before the IG report had come out. You recall this board created the IT Executive Steering Committee to oversee first the RFP to obtain a contractor to do the audit of our IT, and then having that steering committee work with the authority management to write the RFP for the new reservation system. And then we've expanded that steering committee. And with that, I think the board should explore too, with larger capital procurements, do we want to establish oversight steering committees for those type of projects? Not only the IT Executive Steering Committee, but do we need, as we move forward to ship replacement, do we want to have a steering committee for useful life ship replacement where we use the talents of certain board members and port council members to oversee that, since we typically just meet monthly? I think the next item about clarifying with the newly appointed general manager, their role and the senior advisor role, I think goes beyond that. We need to set forth our performance plan and expectations for Alex. I think his work plan is a good start, but looking at what metrics, we did make a verbal promise, I guess, to Alex during his interview that we'd review his performance in July. So we do need to have a performance plan in place. I think that's the most immediate thing that the board needs to do in terms of that. And by next meeting, present a performance plan for the board to adopt in agreement with Alex of what we're going to look at in July, and then refine that then again in July for the next review cycle. And then in regards to the fourth issue recommendation, requesting a full briefing on the res system, Woods Hole Terminal project, converted freight ferry project. That's been happening and ongoing. Once again, that kind of plays into, should we consider to have some other spin-off steering committees in terms of larger capital projects moving forward? And then the last was all of us should go to the IG Academy to take their online course, which I will defer to each one doing that on their own. But with that said, I guess I'm kind of envisioning a work plan. The most immediate item is by next meeting, having a proposed performance plan for the general manager so that we can evaluate him in July. I would be open to being the board member. I think perhaps as chair, it's probably appropriate to work with Alex to put together that performance plan to present to the board. But as to the other items I mentioned, reviewing the bylaws, should we have other steering committees, the procurement policy, I'd like to open that up to discussion to the board in general. And if people are agreeable to that, who would like to volunteer to do what?
I can tell you that I'd be more than happy to look at the bylaws. I've written numerous bylaws for nonprofits and also the town charter. I kind of enjoyed working with them, so especially if there's an attorney that I can argue with.
Never, Mr. Jones.
All right. Well, thank you. Do we have kind of a consensus that we should be reviewing our bylaws as part of our?
Absolutely.
Action item?
They're correct right now.
All right, great. So Mr. Jones, I would be happy for you to take that. I don't necessarily know if we could just do this by, we don't need formal votes for this, do we, at this
No.
point for discussion?
No. 2 or 3 people do
Okay.
it. They want.
Yeah.
You don't have to vote. You can
All right,
volunteer if you'd like.
all right. Does there anyone else want to work with that, with Mr. Jones?
I'd be happy to work with Mr. Jones.
Good.
All right, great.
And I would also say that your subcommittee, your steering subcommittee idea is great. I think we should absolutely do that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And maybe we should think about including some of the port council on these subcommittees.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, I think there's some expertise on the port council, definitely on those matters. I think it's worked really well with the IT Executive Steering Committee, and we've actually expanded the membership. I think it's a good way of having the right people be involved between meetings so that we can stay up to date and we're not delaying decisions or surprised by information.
The
Moving
pay's
forward.
pretty good too, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah. All the coffee you can drink.
And I would certainly support the capital replacement committee, helping with the kind of votes we need and how we need them.
Yeah, so in regards to that, like looking at both the procurement policy, I think the 2 big items, or I guess the 3 major action items I see for the board is, in addition to continuing the IT Executive Steering Committee, is reviewing our bylaws to bring them up to date and make any changes that need to happen. And I guess we have our bylaws will be reviewed by Mr. Jones and Mr. Rainey, along with the general counsel. And I'll let you 2 propose some, when do you think you would be ready to bring something like that to the board? Now that you just know that you're on the spot to do it.
As soon as
That's called a
possible.
hospital pass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You think like June? Our
Probably.
June meeting would be
That might
reasonable?
doable.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
They're not that long.
All right. So by our, well, they may be longer, who knows? Yeah, so
Hopefully not.
hopefully not. So by our June meeting with that, we'll have our idea executive steering committee still overseeing the idea reservation system. I think the other 2 major action items, and part of that is working, I guess, with Alex, and then especially with procurement with Mark. The one is kind of if I remember from our ship replacement useful life plan, along with budget and capital needs. I think we're looking for that, at least a presentation from you, Alex, and I think during your interview, you called it the 2050 plan.
Yes.
If we can stay with that.
Steamship
Mark.
2050.
Steamship 2050, that it probably makes sense to create a steering committee for that capital oversight. So maybe that we think individually offline before our next meeting is who would want to be on that, and I'll talk with Gordon, who from the Port Council may want to be on that. I think that probably should be a 5-member committee between the Port Council and the board. And we'll have to create that by vote and have it be, I think that's a good, just like the IT Executive Steering Committee, good open public meeting law group. Yes.
And in addition to the capital, it's also large expenditures on the operating budget we should have, because it may be classified as operating, but it just is as important, and it might have that threshold as well, just for a point of clarification.
Sure. I think that makes sense. And then with procurement, I don't know if we need to have a procurement steering committee. I think we can handle that just like the bylaws. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer for the procurement portion? I mean, I will by default, because I have some procurement background. And
I'm happy to volunteer.
okay. All right. Well, you are a
Just
glutton for punishment.
Throw my name out there whenever.
All right. So Rob and I will work offline on procurement. I think that would probably need a bit more time than June. I'm thinking perhaps we look for that.
July.
I was going to say August or September.
In the meantime, we'll send you the updated procurement policy that was approved last July, as well as the matrix we have on that as a starting point. If that helps.
Yeah, I would say that maybe we look at that for September, and I just say that because Rob and I are both on the steering committee for IDEA, and it looks like July and August will be light lifting for the steering committee for IDEA.
Well, a lot of things like the, procurement committee, that's been, tweaked and fine tuned over the years for what it is today, and I don't think it's that far off. So I think it's just a tweaking of some of these ideas.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and it's not a committee, right? We're not establishing a committee.
Invent the wheel,
No, but I'm thinking in terms of timelines too. We just, if Rob is involved with the bylaws and we're having that out in June, I'm going to work with Alex to put a performance plan in place by the next meeting to vote on. And then Rob and I are both on IDEA, which has a lot of work to do by June. Just planning out that both Rob and I have full-time day jobs as well. So just thinking in that timeline. So I think bringing a review, and we may not make any changes to our procurement policy, just reviewing the procurement policy and having a discussion by that. It may put August, I think, perhaps.
Alex and I can start the first draft and we'll redline it to at least take some of the heavy lift off.
Okay.
That's in the past, I'll be involved.
As always.
And sticking with Jim's comment, on some of these, we may have to stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure.
We do have that ability. Are there any other action items that the board thinks we need to address as a plan for this year?
I think we've got our hands full.
Yeah. All right. All right. Before any other new business, old business? All right.
We have procurement.
We did procurement. I guess if there's no other old or new business, we're ready for public comment.
Anybody in the room before I go on? Okay, if anyone online has public comment, you can hit the raise your hand icon, and we'll start with Margaret Hanneman.
Hello, thanks. The board gave themselves the option of exercising a 12-month separation option with Mr. Davis. Has that been done or is it being planned? I know there has been strong public comment supporting that separation.
There is on the advice of counsel, I've been advised to refrain from discussing personnel issues during public comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Beth?
Always wanted to say that.
Following up on Margaret's question, I know it has been posed, the question directly to the board. Would we receive an answer through that mechanism, or is that considered public comment as well? I think on December 20th-ish, I can go back to the records to determine, there's been no response. I just want to know if there will ever be a response.
You're off. Okay, there you
go. Beth, the personnel records and personnel discussions are not conducted in public, and personnel decisions involving non-union staff won't be discussed publicly.
Okay, so I have a question specifically about the Monomoy then. I'll move on to the Monomoy because it sounds like that's a non-starter. So the Monomoy's cost just keeps, inching up, I would say. Like December over January inched up about $950K. January over February inched up another $490K. But we don't ever discuss that. It's just, okay, it went up. So is there like an end? So we're over 100% of the budget for the SSA personnel. That's where I see the inching. But that's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot. It's not budgeted money, and it's not questioned. But should we be questioning it? And is there an end to the cost of the Monomoy?
You can if you'd like.
Beth, thank you for the question. And I know I would say the end is when she goes into service. But as far as exactly kind of reviewing all the costs, it is in our plan to do a hot wash. And I think we have an outside vendor that's helping us with that to really get into the costs and where any missteps might have been taken, where the opportunities might be for the future. But as far as getting into that, that's going to be a future board item. Definitely, I will be taking that on as soon as we get the Monomoy in service and we can really do a full review of the process.
And you know what, Alex, I'm probably not as concerned about the process. I'm concerned about every month over month escalation without us having an end date, because this is real dollars that we were not planning on. Just it's more of an immediate thing than a future look back on what went wrong thing. Just I'm going to leave it there. You don't have to answer it because I just want to express the concern.
No, I appreciate the concern.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a better review of the costs at the next board meeting.
Okay.
And Amy.
Hi, Amy Cody from Shellmark. I just have a couple of things. One, Peter, I really appreciate you addressing the recommended actions for the board in such a thorough and precise manner and a serious manner. I would say that the procurement issues are serious, and I really recommend that you keep going on that as a responsibility that the board has to take seriously. I was a little surprised that you were less serious about number 5, requiring all board members to take or retake the boards and commission course offered by the OIG Academy within 60 days. So it's past 60 days. And I feel like you made it sound like you leave it to everyone to do it on their own. And the word require sounds more serious to me. So I would really hope that every one of the board members takes it and then has to report back that they've taken it so that that loop is closed. Because I think that there are probably things in that course that the board could learn from. The second thing was I brought this up at the Port Council meeting, and it was in response to something that Nat Lowell had said, that he recommended and encouraged that the steamship expand licensing opportunities for different ferry operators, given the fact that you never know what's going to happen out there in Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. And it's really important to have diversification of ports as well as diversification of different ferry systems that can take recyclables and other things off of islands. So with that being said, it's been over a year that OTT has wanted to do this. There were many public hearings, there were many letters of support. Now we're hearing that it's again slowed down because of the City of New Bedford negotiations. I know that Gordon Carr had some issues that he wanted, and words that he wanted to add, language that he wanted to add, because he's protecting the City of New Bedford as a port. But I would really encourage you to think about how feasible is this going to be for OTT with the licensing fee that you are recommending. It just doesn't sound like it could work for them at all, the amount of money that you're asking from them. When in fact, if they're taking cars and trucks off of the steamship boats, you'll be able to sell those to other trucks. So I don't understand quite why you're squeezing them so tightly, and making it harder for them to do this. 2 days a week, 6:30 to 7:30, 100% licensing fee. It just sounds like a squeeze that no one could handle. I really think diversification of the location of freight ports needs to be a new priority for the steamship. The coming Cape Cod Canal Bridge reconstruction needs to be taken into consideration. We would really like other ports besides Hyannis and Woods Hole to be used to avoid a single point of failure in the Cape ports. Diversification of port location, that is a real lifeline for the future. In addition, we would hope on the Vineyard that ferry companies like OTT were also proposing to remove recyclables from the Vineyard to New Bedford. Not talking about trash, we're talking about recyclables. This would open up a lot of chance for less trucks to be going through Woods Hole, the 8 miles that they have to rumble past homes and through that little village. And New Bedford is right near the highway. And we really hope that New Bedford is considered, and you work with New Bedford officials to figure out how New Bedford can become a viable port as an alternative and to allow for more diversification. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nat Trumbull.
This is Nat Trumbull. I wanted to clarify about the light pollution issue, which so many residents and neighbors in Woods Hole Village have been talking about since November of last year. And my understanding is it's light pollution not only from the third slip, but the other slips as well. And I would add that now Senator Fernandez, when he was representative, in writing, did ask as the reconstruction project began that light pollution be specifically be taken into account. And surely those lights could be shielded yet serve their needed functional purpose. And the second comment I have relates to the 2 public hearings that were held concerning the OTT application, and I participated and spoke at one of those hearings. I have not been able to find the minutes or really even the content from those hearings in any documentation, including in the staff memo. And Attorney Keneally referenced concern during the hearing about steamship revenue loss. But I would also point out there were many comments related to, again, the need for diversification, as Amy Cody spoke of off Cape of mainland ports and consideration of the burden that the two existing routes are placing on two communities and only two communities at present. So my comment again, I wish if you're holding officially announced public hearings, that there be a record of those hearings available in the name of transparency and good governance. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
All right. Terrence, do you have I don't see an announcement for.
Oh, you don't have it in there?
Yeah, it said it said it was removed. I went back in.
Okay. Take it up.
Okay.
Okay, to move into executive session?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authority's meetings in executive session on December 4th, 2025 and January 2026, and to review and discuss the authority strategies with respect to litigation and the exchange, lease, or value of real estate. Because a public discussion of these matters may have detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include Eben and Elias et al. Versus Woods Hole's Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority, civil action number 2572 CV 00492, and 590 Thomas B. Landers Road Parking Lot Solar Project in Falmouth, Massachusetts. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. May I have a motion?
Move.
Jones? And I think I heard Mr. Malkin.
Correct.
All right, roll call vote.
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, I.
Malkin, aye.
Ready on.
We are adjourned.